Hi dear friends, welcome to my channel. Next I will be reviewing a fountain pen from Japan, from the manufacturer Pentel. Pentel is known for its whole range of writing instrument in the, let's say, affordable range. And this fountain pen I've purchased around 7 years ago. It is, let's say, an affordable fountain pen that is dedicated or made for students at school in the primary when they first learn writing and so on. It has a full plastic metal body and the design is quite attractive. The feel of this plastic is different. It really doesn't feel plasticky. The model of the fountain pen is Pentel Tradio, as you can see it here. And as I said, the plastic quality, it's quite good, I must say. So it's a very pleasant to touch. It has a high polish shine, as you can also see. It's white and the cap has a very nice window and you can see the nib here. The reason probably this has a window here so that you can see if the fountain pen has dripped ink and maybe you would have to clean it. But I think it's kind of a nice addition. Then the cap is bullet shape, the finial, nothing special. The nice design is though the clip. The clip has a streamlined design and it's quite flexible, I might say, and very usable because you can put it in the pocket of the shirt and then it holds quite well because of this notch here as well. On the cap we also have imprinted Pentel Japan. Very nice. As I said, I've been having this for like 7 years, but when I purchased it, I wasn't really into fountain pens. I purchased this and one more just to give it a try I guess I was feeling a little bit nostalgic after the bygone times. And I've purchased this, but I haven't really used it in quite a long time. Now I decided to have a review because it's quite a nice fountain pen for the price range. The price of this fountain pen, if I remember correctly, was somewhere between 10 and 20 euros I've paid for it. So I was saying that the clip has a very nice streamlined design, nothing spectacular, but still different from what we are used to from the Asian pens, from the big three manufacturers. And then the cap also has a ring. The section here is also bullet shaped with a little bit of a step down, 3/3, 3/4 toward the end of the barrel. The end of the barrel has a hole, kind of 4 holes in it, breather holes. I'm not sure what these are for, but probably exposure to air, I'm not really sure. Then the cap opens with a click, so slides back in. It holds quite well. The cap won't fall, although it's not as strong, let's say, as by Waterman, where the cap is really secured in place. This is, let's say, a little bit softer, but still it gives that satisfying click when you close it. The cap has no ring on it, nothing spectacular. It's just simple plastic. And then we have the section. The section is quite huge. If you can measure it, it's like half of my fingers. I must say this unusual design, it's also very comfortable because when you write, there's nothing that bothers you, like no threads, no nothing. So long section, it's quite nice, surprisingly nice. And then we have this section is quite conical. I think the cap, if I'm not mistaken, I think the cap closes here. You see a little bit of a indent so that the cap can click in securely in place. Then we have at the end of the section towards the nib we have no ring, directly another small step down towards the nib. The nib is a steel nib, is iridium point Germany, nothing spectacular, and below it says Pentel. The nib size is supposed to be a fine, and here we have the plastic feed, which I think works quite well. Unusual cut, this plastic feed. And then we have the barrel that unscrews from the section. And here you have plastic threads, a ring, plastic threads, and plastic threads also on the section. The section also has a nice ring that, when put together, we have a very nice combination, a very smooth transition, which is quite pleasant. Now, it's very interesting that this Pentel Tradio does take international cartridges. However, what is interesting to note is that the short international cartridges are really going very deep into the section towards the nib. So I recommend getting long international cartridges, because then you have a huge amount of ink. This pen did not come with a converter, so therefore I will be using it with international cartridges. So you can also see when I press it how deep it goes into the section, this international standard cartridge. So I will push it now, and you see almost through the end. Next I will be doing a writing sample with this fountain pen, and the paper this time is different from the no-name supermarket paper that I've been using so far, and this is Clairefontaine. So now there's no way to prime when you have cartridges and you haven't used a pen in a long time. There's no really good way to prime the nib. So then what you can do is just maybe several times try to kind of get some ink drops outside. Well, unfortunately, that's all I can do now. I'm gonna also try to prime it by pressing on the cartridge, but because it's so deep inside, there's almost no chance that you're getting something useful out of it. Let's see. So unfortunately this didn't work out. I will have to change this cartridge to a converter and fill it with a different kind of ink. Now let's see if I have a converter handy. I have some converters from Jinhao, but these are not very impressed with them because somehow they don't match all pens. They're supposed to be standard international, but they don't match all pens. So you see the converter is kind of nice here. It slides again very deep into the section, and instead I'm gonna use the Waterman Intense Black ink, which I've never used before. So I'm also curious how this ink really performs. So I have here, I'm almost prepared for everything. So I'm gonna fill up this pen and do a writing sample. So is there any ink coming through? I got no ink coming through, so it's probably these Jinhao converters, which are really horrible. I don't recommend them. Some of them match quite well, but some don't. So that's kind of a problem. Yeah, so now I have some ink here. I spilled some ink on the paper. but this ink is truly black, as you can see. It's quite a nice and intense black, this watermark ink. So next I'm gonna do a writing sample. Let me blot these droplets here. It probably won't bother us with the writing sample. So the cap posts quite well, and as a writer, so this is a Pentel Pentel Tradio. The pen writes decently well, I must say, but I also have to admit that the steel nib it came with, which I think was fine, was very feedbacky, and I have polished it. Now, after polishing, usually I don't really like polished nibs in any ways, just because by doing so you're damaging, I mean, you are changing the quality of the pen. If correction, I don't like reviews made on polished fountain pen nibs. If the nib was polished and then the review was made, then it doesn't have so much value, because then the purpose of the review is just to show the others what they are getting. But because I've bought this fountain pen 7 years ago, when I wasn't really into fountain pens, then I polished it at some point, because to me it was a little bit too feedbacky, and now it writes quite smoothly. On a scale of 1 to 10, the smoothness would be maybe a 3.5, 4.5, I would say. So now it writes much smoother than before. It was quite feedbacky but not scratchy. Now it's quite fine. The ink is Waterman Noir Intense, or Black Intense. Quite a nice ink, a true black, I would say. The feed keeps quite well, keeps up quite well, and if you can see it now, if I could show you here what happened with the feed, which is quite interesting. So here you see that the feed is full with ink in these channels. It could be full just because I just filled it, but the fact that it has so much ink into it, I like this. That means the feed is quite nice and ready for high ink flow. This Clairefontaine paper is quite nice. It's 50 grams per square meter, I think. You see the ink doesn't go through it. You can see it, but it doesn't go through it. It's not so fine. It has some texture on the surface, some roughness, but it's a very nice and fountain pen friendly ink. Now coming back to this fountain pen, we have, as I said, the feed keeps quite well, no complaints here. Flexibility, I think there is no hope for flexibility. No, I am pushing it too much, and I'm going towards broad, but there's really no flexibility. The wetness is quite nice, but I have the feeling that this Clairefontaine paper also absorbs a little bit of ink. No, I think this fountain pen is quite wet. That also could be explained by the fact that you have so much ink into the feed. So the ink saturation is quite nice. I remember writing with this fountain pen a while ago, and I was quite satisfied with it. Because it's plastic, it's also not a very sturdy pen, so you cannot expect that if you drop it, it survives. But I think for a starter pen in the category of Pilot Metropolitan or all other kind of cheap fountain pens, is quite nice. It's a good writer, given that you polish it a little bit, then you get really a wet writer, unlike, let's say, fountain pens in the price of this range. The nib sizes, I think you can find different nib sizes with this Pentel. I'm not really sure, but this writes quite, let's say, fine medium, European fine medium. And you're getting a steel nib for probably $15. Is this pen worth purchasing? Well, if this is your first pen you acquire, you might give it a thought, but I'm not even sure that they are being offered anymore. But I thought, just for sake of reviewing a fountain pen, which is a little bit different from all the others that you can now find in supermarkets and shops, then this one is also worth a review. I really like this window. You can actually see the nib through this window. I'm not really sure what purpose it serves, but I think it's quite nice. So this was my review. Thanks for watching, and see you next time. Bye bye.